Hi folks, Timothy Brown here again, Chief Executive Officer of Roy Corporation, your host of Profit Practice TV. One of the most common questions that comes to appraisers and brokers across this nation, in my company and with our competitors, is what do I need to do to get ready? I'm getting ready, Tim. I want to sell. I'm 2 years away. I'm 3 to 5 years away. What should I do to prepare my practice for sale? We at Roy Corporation obviously have had that question many times. We prepared a transition checklist, and more intimately, when we're working with the client at the stage of appraisal, we prepare what's called a critical path timeline. Critical path timeline is basically the sequence of events and the stages that need to be planned out in order to effect a proper sale. There's a number of key things that are included in this that you need to know about before your practice will sell. How's your premise lease? What's your situation with your lease? Do you have renewal options? Is there anything in your lease that's going to hinder the sale of your practice? Demolition clauses, relocation clauses, sale of building clauses. Listen, folks, the landlords of Canada today, they're looking to reposition their properties. One of the key things that can hinder the sale of a professional practice is a landlord. The landlords of Canada today, they're from all over the world. Properties in Canada are being owned by people from all over the world, and they're trying to reposition those properties for future sale and future redevelopment. We've all seen buildings being repositioned, taken down, tenants being removed, and condominiums being developed. That's happening all across this nation. The older the building you're in, the more likely your landlord's planning to do something with it. So be prepared. Look at your premise lease. Look at your renewal agreements. If your lease is up for renewal, get professional advice. Companies like Roy Corporation, when we do the appraisal, we read leases, every page, every line. Sometimes they're hundreds of pages long. Check your lease, folks. Things are really changing in the landlord community. Staffing. People always ask about employees. Are your employees on written employment contracts? If they're not, they should be. There are many reasons you should do that. The key reason is it improves the saleability and the fair market value of your practice. If you do not have your employees on written agreements, I really think you need to look into it. There's a multitude of experts that do it. We know who they are. Call somebody at Roy Corporation. We'll make sure you're introduced to a professional. Associates and partners. If you have associates, if you have partners, is your agreement current? Is it in writing? Is it dated? If you've made any changes to the original arrangement, has that been properly documented? You trust your associate and your partners, but today's buyers, their lawyers, their accountants, their bankers, and their advisory community doesn't. You need to have all of these things in writing. Once you start working through the process of the appraisal, we, as your appraiser and your broker, will look at your employment contracts, we'll look at your leases, we'll look at your associate agreements, we'll tell you how and if they can impact the saleability of your practice, and how the buyer side, how the buyer community views whatever your present arrangements of your business are. Remember, buyers aren't just one person. When you have a purchaser looking at your practice, you have the purchaser, you have their spouse, you have their accountant, their lawyer, their banker, their classmate, their professor, their brother, their classmate, their friends. There are 10 people advising that one buyer that you think you're dealing with. We as a broker assemble all of the interests and the information that's required by that 10-person advisory circle so that that buyer has all the information they need, and then your practice can be presented more professionally to the marketplace in a controlled fashion. If you're thinking of exiting anytime in the immediate future, 2 years, 3 to 5 years, ask about the transition plan, start a critical path. All of this begins at the appraisal stage, which is all done after hours in a confidential fashion, and then we will tell you if indeed your practice is ready for sale. And if it's not, you may have to take some steps to get your practice ready for sale. I'm Timothy Brown, Chief Executive Officer of Roy Corporation, your host of Profit Practice TV. 6th edition of my book comes out in January 15. It's different than the first 5 editions. You might want to pick up another copy at profitable-practice.com. Thanks for watching.